Hi, welcome to Trends in AI by Zeta Alpha. My name is Jakub Zavrel, and today I have the honor to have a discussion with Thomas Hurd, founder and CEO of Zeki Data, um, about the role of talent in the field of AI. Thomas has a distinguished career mainly in government in UK, ending in a position as Director General in the UK Home Office. And after that illustrious government career, he has started a company focused on collecting data about AI talent. We met in San Francisco at World AI Summit and started talking about the report. And we're really glad to have you in Trends in AI by Zeta Alpha for this interview, Thomas.
And it's a pleasure to join you today.
Great. Of course, talent in AI has been in the news very recently with Meta's talent poaching game and elevating AI talent to the level of professional sports teams, salary levels of in the hundreds of millions. Of course, it was all over the news everywhere. What's your take on that?
I think that Meta has kind of recognized that you can have all the compute and money in the world, but if you don't have the talent, you're not going to innovate as fast or better than your competitors. So I think for me, the main thing was that, talent really matters. And at the sort of top of the tree in AI, it really matters a lot given the stakes and the money that's behind creating more intelligent AI. I would describe what Meta has done as a surgical strike on OpenAI. We have looked at the people that they have hired from OpenAI, and they have two very specific characteristics. One is that they have held senior positions as research scientists or research engineers at Google DeepMind or at Google at some stage in their career. Talent that Meta has always found really difficult to attract. And the second is that they work in very specific areas of AI around topic modeling, neural network applications, very, very specific expertise that Meta's gone after. And the main group that Meta has hired successfully from OpenAI actually comes out of Zurich. It comes out of Europe. And it's three individuals who haven't been at OpenAI for that long. It's only maybe...
Yeah, Lucas Bayer and the Vision Group, formerly of DeepMind. He just had joined OpenAI very recently.
Yeah. And they kind of, they joined OpenAI together. They kind of stayed for just under a year, and now they've moved together to kind of Meta. But definitely a kind of surgical strike. And I don't know whether the numbers being quoted in the papers are correct, but this is talent that Meta has found very, very difficult to track before. So most likely they needed to do something different this time.
Yeah, and obviously Meta has had its share of problems as well, right? In releasing a Llama model, which is kind of up to par with the other frontier models, and a whole series of departures also in its existing AI organization. So certainly it seems that both talent and culture are key in making those mega investments in hardware and AI strategy work. We've seen a recent also news story about DeepSeek, of course, that was also about talent, right? Like Chinese talent all of the sudden showing the American and European labs that even with much smaller resources, they can produce very competitive models.
Yeah. And I think both are linked to open source or closed. Meta has been very successful at attracting really, really good talent working on LLMs. I'm just going to see if you can see this chart I was going to put up. But they have, if you look on the right-hand chart, the light blue line, they have successfully increased their market share of the most elite talent that is working on building large language models. You can see they've been doing a lot better than many of their competitors, including OpenAI, but not as good as Google and DeepMind, which you can see on the left. I think a lot of that has been that talent is incentivized not just by money, certainly the very best talent, but incentivized also by working on the most hard, complex problems. And I think also that in this world, talent is attracted by kind of the ability to kind of do good for others and make sure that its technology and its models are kind of open source. So, you know, if Meta changes that approach, I think that may make it difficult for them to access some of the very best people in a way that they're doing now. The big lesson from DeepSeek was that they have attracted a small but very, very talented cohort of very, very young talent local to China. And what was very, very sort of clear characteristic amongst all that talent was that all their publications, all their outputs, even though they're still doing their PhDs or have just graduated, everything they've done is open source and out there.
Yeah.
In a way that you don't see for their kind of peers in the USA and in the EU. And
Yeah.
DeepSeek were really clear in all their interviews that one of the secrets to their success was that they had committed to their researchers that everything would be public, because that was really important in order to attract and retain the kind of people they needed. So
Yeah.
changes to how you, whether you're open source or closed source, affect the kind of talent that you're able to attract.
Yeah, and of course, Meta has been also, you know, in the person of Jan LeCun, and the government, the policy on AI has been to fiercely advocate for open science and open source. But there have been recent rumors that this may come to an end soon, right? That the next Llama version will not be open. I'm curious what effect that will have on these huge talent investments that they've recently made.
I think they will struggle to attract certain talent that is motivated on working in the open source community and is committed to that. It's really important to recognize that the very best minds in AI can choose where they work. They make that choice. They have multiple offers, and therefore they can choose. So I think it will affect their kind of talent pipeline. It may mean that they'll try and offer kind of more money as well. And I think they'll have to kind of think very, very hard before they do that, given that what they have done in the last 2 weeks or so is shown that they, you know, they need better people. The other thing about Meta is that they have a very high attrition rate. They kind of sort of hire at scale and then fire at scale.
Yeah.
You know, job security is not something that you would align with Meta compared to some of its competitors.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read the blog by Tijmen Blankevort, a prominent AI researcher, a prominent Dutch origin AI researcher who kind of resigned with a bang at Meta, but it was quite damning. Thomas, so you have all this data about the movement of talent between different companies and the movement of talent globally. And earlier this summer, you have launched this publication, the State of Talent in AI report. Can you tell us a little bit how you came to collect this data? What has been your journey towards publishing this report?
Yeah. And the report is free to download on our website, www.zekidata.com. And the report is based on 800,000 top AI talents that we have collected in a data set, which includes all countries in the world outside of China. We don't cover the talent that is actually located now in China. And we pull together data from many thousands of open access sources to paint a picture of the kind of decisions that top AI talent makes as they decide what area they're going to focus on. They start producing kind of research or contributing to data or code repositories. They make decisions around how they're going to position themselves in their career, whether they're going to move, take on jobs, whether they're going to participate in competitions and hackathons to polish their skills, whether they're going to play roles in the AI community, organizing events or sitting on panels or reviewing papers. And we collect all these decisions that top AI talent makes to create a single picture of an individual. And to be in that 800,000, the threshold for us is that you've contributed at least one new piece of discovery in AI. So you have had to have contributed a publication or a preprint or a significant data or code repository to be in above our threshold. And the reason for that is that we wanted to kind of give a picture of talent that is proven to have worked at the frontier of AI, at the sort of center of discovery, and that is hired to drive innovation in companies, deliver new technologies rather than just adopt existing technology. And we collect the data at an individual level, but that then allows us to paint a picture at a company level, at a sector level, and at a country level going back 15 years.
Yeah. So I'm sure you have a lot of demand for that data, but you also brought out this report recently. So can you kind of show us some of the main findings from the report? Because some of them are quite counterintuitive, right? Everybody tends to think that the epicenter of AI talent is the Bay Area in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. And that's it. Maybe a little blip on the screen from DeepSeek from China, recently Minimax and other sort of open source models from there. But by and large, we tend to think that the US is quite dominant in the AI race, right?
We do. And we've all grown up with that, and that's our lived experience. But if I show you, one of the big predictions we make is that the US will no longer be the destination of choice for AI, the top AI talent.
Right.
That's based on looking at the flows of these, taking those 800,000 individuals and seeing where they are and how they move around the world. And as you can
So
see,
what does this graph actually exactly show us?
that shows it shows that up until 2016, 17, there was a consistent inflow of talent from outside the US into the US to pursue their careers or their advanced education in AI in the US. And at the peak, the US was attracting over 700 of the best minds in AI every month. But as you can see, that has started to tail off over the period 17 to 18, a drop off during COVID, as you would expect, as people didn't move, a bounce after COVID, and then now a more sustained sort of decline. And we see two reasons for that, Jakub. One is that the arrival of ChatGPT and the effect that's having on demand for top AI talent at the top 15 US AI companies. And you can see that with the arrival of ChatGPT in sort of 20, in recent years, a very, very sharp fall off in demand for high-end software engineers from US AI companies, and that will affect their willingness or their need to fill capacity with people coming to the United States from overseas.
Yeah.
And then secondly, the other thing to watch is recent changes in research funding by the US government. Will affect universities, it will affect research institutes, and therefore we expect that there will be less people from overseas seeking to do their PhDs or their masters in the States than previously. And this slide shows that the US has constantly attracted, large numbers of people doing their masters and PhDs. About 50% of people doing their masters or PhDs in the US come from overseas. So we think these two trends of less demand from AI companies as they automate and automate out roles in the company, and also this fall off in research funding will mean that in 2025 and 2026, the US will be a net exporter of, we won't be a net exporter, it just won't attract talent in a way that it used to. We expect.
So the net inflow has come to a halt, and you predict that this will be even aggravated by the recent sort of science funding policies.
Yeah.
So can you, so this is across the broad population, these 800,000 people that you track. How does that play out in this sort of frontier labs world? Is this even a, let's say, is this sort of country of origin, or where, the flow of talent between different countries, is that does that play a role there with these labs like Meta and OpenAI and Anthropic and Google DeepMind?
They so the frontier AI labs tend still to focus on attracting top AI talent in the Bay Area. I would say that's still things we track 2,500 people that we know have been directly involved in building the 600 most notable kind of AI models. And there is still a very strong kind of central focus in the Bay Area. They are very much kind of, they all have very much the same characteristics. They tend to have the same kind of backgrounds. They tend to have the same kind of degrees and areas of expertise. You don't feel there's an enormous amount of neural diversity in that population, if I'm frank. I think what is really interesting for us, Jakub, if I go to another slide down at the bottom here, is there is going to be another wave of AI, and we focus on world models. So this is like the current focus of those frontier AI labs is training the models on everything that's on the internet.
Right.
That feels like the progress on that is going to be less linear going forward, maybe more jagged. It's becoming more difficult. It's becoming more expensive. What Meta has done has just shown that they need to change things around to get to the next phase. But what we're watching also is what would be the next wave of innovation, and for us that's around experts in teaching computers how to learn and interact with the real world. So
things like robotics, self-driving cars.
And there you see very different companies hiring that talent. You've got the Nvidias, the Amazons, the Waymos, and companies in that kind of space. and Nvidia in particular, I think, is one to watch. But this visual shows, those different companies and how they're focusing on hiring people who are experts in imaging and sensing. So teaching computers about how to sense the world, how to image the world, rather than kind of learning from kind of how to train on everything on text or the internet. So we're watching and wanting to track companies that are looking at the next wave of innovation and who's catching that. And again, that feels like it's going to be a different set of companies.
Yeah. And so obviously these world models are somewhat less advanced in terms of productization and commercial models around them, right? Um, but you think that this will really result in a completely different set of companies dominating the AI talent equation in a few years from now.
Yeah, and I think that it's not that the likes of OpenAI or Anthropic, Meta, Google, Microsoft, and others
Obviously, they're all working on world models as well, right?
they're all working on them, but it feels that they don't have exclusive access to that talent at this stage in the innovation. It could be that world models are kind of 5 years away, and so it's more which companies are kind of looking forward and starting to build their talent sort of funnel now. I would highlight Nvidia as a company that won't be a semiconductor company in 5 years' time. They are hiring at great speed the best people in robotics,
Yeah.
and Google DeepMind as well. And here we're also showing that in the world of robotics and in the world of world models, defense companies have a very strong interest in this kind of expertise. So we think that the winners in the next wave of innovation could still include Meta and Google, but there will be other companies in there, some like Nvidia, that will have recreated themselves to be not just a semiconductor company, but the robotics software platform that everybody uses.
Right. So especially when you talk about defense, of course, but also in general, the progress in AI is kind of framed as a race between different geopolitical blocks, right? A kind of race between China and the US, a little bit of a split in an old alliance opening up with Europe trying to go in a different way where maybe regulation plays a larger role than elsewhere in the world. You have a slide, I believe, on kind of how Europe is holding up in this inflow
Yeah,
and net exchange of talent. Can you
yeah.
comment on that a little bit?
So I think going forward, you'll see four big kind of AI ecosystems with sort of different kind of markets, regulation within them. And one will be the US, North America, let's say. One will be EU. One will be China, and for us, another one will be India. And I think what we're seeing is that talent will choose to be in which ecosystem it wants to be, because they will be different. The American system is the free market AI system. Um, uh, uh, China has very much its own sort of, let's say, centrally controlled system to some extent. Europe is a sort of there is going to be a flavor of regulation in Europe that is different, and India is also will carve its own different path in terms of kind of regulation and its ecosystem. Europe has consistently attracted, as this slide shows, talent from kind of overseas, but there has been a sharp fall off recently. Some of that is likely due to companies seeking efficiencies, hiring less people, as in America. The economy in Europe has not been strong, but the EU AI Act potentially also could be a disincentive for talent to come and seek opportunities in Europe. So I think there will be four very distinct ecosystems, and this global AI talent that moves around the world in very large numbers may start to choose which ecosystem it wants to work in.
Yeah. And do you believe so? The AI Act has received its share of criticism recently, right? There has been a couple of open letters from industry leaders seeking to get a pause on enforcement of the AI Act. At the same time, there is kind of a very little, very specific improvement suggestions on where that AI Act exactly hurts innovation. So, can you comment a little bit about how you see, let's say, the positive and the negatives of European regulation playing out in, especially in the field of talent?
Um, I think that regulation, it's very clear. If you go to a conference in America, they're just talking about opportunity. If you go to one in Europe, it quickly turns into regulation. I think the uh, the positives for Europe around regulation are that if you can crack it within the European market, you will have the advantage. If you can build, products and technology that meets the standards, and I think they will evolve those standards. But if you can meet it, you can beat your competitors. So Aleph Alpha in Germany, has decided not to compete with the big players in large language models, but it is competing in terms of being able to produce technology that is, the right side of regulation. So some players can use regulation to build a moat, actually. So I think there is that kind of opportunity. And the other opportunity is that um, you know innovation is a word that's used a lot, uh, and people saying that regulation is the enemy of innovation. I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we've seen not that long ago. It seems like another era, but we have seen Sam Altman on his world tour asking basically regulators, please regulate AI, please regulate us because we
yeah,
have incredibly dangerous technology in our hands, and we need regulators to work
yeah,
with us. So I think if you kind of um, um, attach credibility to that story, I think a lot of people in the AI field actually believe that yeah, that there needs to be some form of regulation, and it better be kind of our value systems that define that regulation.
yeah. I think you there are. We can't rule out the fact that there will be some disastrous event in AI, which will then make everybody realize, as we did with the kind of banking crisis or whatever, that if you don't have guardrails, then the system will fall over and create, in the case of the financial crisis, a major existential threat to the finance system. So there is a reason for regulation, and for AI to really be adopted globally, uh, it's going to have to need to work in regulated sectors, and they're the biggest and the most effective are the ones, like finance, uh, life sciences, drug discovery, energy, the big parts of the economy. So you can't escape regulation, and none of the companies.
I don't think there's many people arguing that we should deregulate pharma, for example, right?
No, and so there's sort of, I think, AI, a lot of focus, Jakub, is around the kind of talent that's building frontier models and things like that. But there's a lot of AI that's kind of less glamorous, but actually more effective and productive for businesses and for the consumer. And that tends to be in the hands of regulated sectors, good old fashioned machine learning. And we all will want that to be very carefully regulated.
And so we've kind of talked about the frontier labs with their superstar, frontier AI research teams that are getting, extravagant salaries thrown at them. We're also talking about sort of this bigger population of AI talent that's building applications for businesses and for government and for consumers. Do you see a divide in sort of this sort of top sports and the normal league in terms of the movement that you see?
I think that although there's a very heavy focus on the top frontier AI labs, and the media tends to focus on them, when we've looked at comparisons in terms of the achievements and the profiles of those people and comparison groups that aren't in that sort of technically kind of elite group, there are lots of really, really good people out there who just happen to have decided to work in other areas. And so we would say that there's a very, very broad field of very, very good minds working across a whole range of sectors that are just as good as the people in the frontier AI labs technically, but they're just taking sort of different paths, and you see that across the piece. They just don't get the same media interest, and I think ultimately they're not being remunerated as much, but they are incentivized to work on really complex issues, and there will be other breakthroughs in AI that don't involve large language models. They'll involve biocomputing. They'll involve sort of robotics. I think is a sort of key area going forward. You've got quantum computing coming through. So we're quite fixated on this wave of innovation, but actually I think the people who are really close to the research, which are these AI minds that we track, that they are also building the next wave of innovation, and they won't have their moment in the sun until it arrives, but they're working on it now.
And so I know that you don't probably track that in your data, but it would be very interesting to get a deeper sense of motivation within this larger group. What kind of values or objectives or dreams is this larger group of AI engineers and researchers driven by? Because after all, I think we as AI practitioners decide the type of future that we want to build for this technology.
Yeah, I think I do think if you look at the behaviors we see very significant growth in individuals wanting to focus on responsible AI. So we would say that there are as many people now kind of pulling apart and putting back together some of these models and evaluating them as there are people kind of seeking to build and refine them. So I think people certainly companies who are looking to attract this talent need to be very relevant to that talent. And that doesn't mean just remuneration. It means complex technical challenges that need new thinking, and also that you're going to do it in a kind of safe, responsible way.
All right. So thank you for this fly through to your report. What is your prediction for how the next 1 or 2 years are going to evolve in AI and in the field of talent in AI?
Well, I think we're watching it. We think that kind of talent will be a good predictor of two things. One is, if there starts to be trouble building the next generation of large language models based on kind of text and the internet, we would anticipate that you'd start to see talent moving out of those frontier AI labs before we all know that they've kind of hit a roadblock. So we do track individuals there and see whether they, get a jump ship sooner than the press announcement. But I do think that there won't be a linear progression now to the next model, from Google or OpenAI or Anthropic. I think it's going to get harder for them. They've got to crack new challenges. They've got to hire different people. So, volatility in the mix of talent or the arrivals or departures of some of those big frontier AI labs will be a good indicator that, something's going on, and maybe progress is slowing or stopped. The second is, I think we will continue to see certainly young emerging talent, heading into kind of new areas, I would say, and that would involve, I think, a greater shift into areas like kind of life sciences. I think that's a very attractive area now, where the level of adoption of AI is actually really quite small in drug discovery and other areas of biotech. Companies in those areas know everybody who works in the field of biology and chemistry and materials. They have much less knowledge of the world of AI, but they now need to hire those people to bring them alongside their chemists and their biologists. I think we're really just at the start of that journey. But as the opportunities become bigger technically and from a career perspective in that kind of sector, I think you'll start to see this young emerging talent going into those areas.
Right. As always, this year and the next year are the most exciting years to be working in the field of AI. And I think that will continue to be the case for quite a little while. So thanks, Thomas, for sharing these insights with us, and for publishing the report on talent in AI. And thanks for joining us for this interview in Trends in AI by Serra Alpha.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.